Welcome back to Read Aloud. So here we are in the miraculous journey of Edward Tulane. We are to chapter 10. What is that a picture of? It's a high chair. Some of you may have little brothers and sisters that are in a high chair right now. Does Edward mind being in a high chair? Well, at first it bothers him, but then he just knows he's glad to be alive. And what else? He gets to sit up. He gets to see what's going on instead of staring right at the white tablecloth all meal long. So, at the end of the chapter, though, we found out that everything was sweet until Nellie and Lawrence's daughter comes. So let's find out what that is about. Chapter 10. Lolly was a lumpy woman who spoke too loudly and wore too much lipstick. She entered the house and immediately spotted Edward sitting on the living room couch. "What's this?" she said. She put down her suitcase and picked Edward up by one foot. She held him upside down. "That's Susanna," said Nellie. "Susanna!" shouted Lolly. She gave Edward a shake. His dress was up over his head, and he could see nothing. Already he had formed a deep and abiding hatred for Lolly. Abiding means you stay in it. It continues on in a place. "Your father found him," said Nellie. "She came up in a net, and she didn't have no clothes on her. So I made her some dresses." "Have you gone skivvy?" shouted Lolly. "Rabbits don't need clothes." "Well," said Nellie. Her voice shook. "This one seemed to." Lolly tossed Edward back on the couch. He landed face down with his arms over his head and his dress still over his face, and he stayed that way through dinner. You know how he loves sitting up at dinner. "Why have you got that old high chair?" shouted Lolly. "Oh, don't pay it no mind," said Nellie. "Your father was just gluing on a missing piece. Wasn't you, Lawrence?" "That's right," said Lawrence, without looking up from his plate. Of course, after dinner, Edward did not go outside and stand beneath the stars to have a smoke with Lawrence. And Nellie, for the first time since Edward had been with her, did not sing him a lullaby. In fact, Edward was ignored and forgotten about until the next morning, when Lolly picked him up again and pulled his dress down away from his face and stared him in the eyes. "Got the old folks bewitched, don't you?" said Lolly. "I heard the talk in town. They've been treating you like a rabbit child." Edward stared back at Lolly. Her lipstick was bright and bloody red. He found a cold breeze blow through the room. Was a door open somewhere? Do you really think there was a door open? You ever feel cold when there isn't even a breeze? "Well, you don't fool me," she said, and she gave him a shake. "We'll be taking a trip together, you and me." Holding Edward by the ears, Lolly marched into the kitchen and shoved him face down in the garbage can. "Ma!" shouted Lolly. "I'm taking the truck. I'm going to head out and do some errands." "Oh," came Nellie's tremulous voice. Tremulous means it's shaking, has a tremor in it. "That's wonderful, dear. Goodbye, then." "Goodbye," thought Edward, as Lolly hauled the garbage can to the truck. "Goodbye," Nellie called again, louder this time. Edward felt a sharp pain somewhere, deep inside his china chest. For the first time, his heart called out to him. It said 2 words: "Nellie." Lawrence. Chapter 11. Where is Edward? You see what's there? We have an old tire and boxes and cans. It's all in a big heap. What's up here, though? Where does he get to look? Have some hope. Chapter 11. Edward ended up at the dump. He lay on top of orange peels, coffee grounds, rancid bacon, and rubber tires. Rancid means that it's spoiled, smells and slimy. The first night he was at the top of the garbage heap, and so he was able to look at the stars and find comfort in their light. In the morning, a short man came climbing through the trash and rubble. He stopped when he was standing on top of the highest pile. He put his hands under his armpits, and he flapped his elbows. The man crowed loudly. He shouted, "Who am I? I'm Ernest! Ernest was king of the world! How can I be king of the world? Because I am king of garbage, and garbage is what the world is made of. Therefore, I am Ernest. Ernest, who is king of the world!" He crowed again. Edward was inclined to agree with Ernest's assessment of the world being made of garbage, especially after his second day at the dump, when a load of trash was deposited directly on top of him. He lay there, buried alive. He could not see the sky. He could not see the stars. He could see nothing. What kept Edward going, what gave him hope, was thinking of how he could find Lolly and exact his revenge. He would pick her up by the ears. He would bury her under a mountain of trash. So do you see what's happened to him? He's getting very angry. Has he talked about being angry like this before? No, he was hurt, and so now he's angry. But after almost 40 days and nights had passed, the weight and smell of the garbage above and below clouded Edward's thoughts, and soon he gave up thinking about revenge and gave into despair. That's where he feels kind of hopeless. It was worse, much worse, than being buried at sea. Now, he thought that was horrible. It was the worst thing that could happen. That's why he didn't mind being in a dress. He didn't mind being called a girl. He couldn't say how he was different. He just knew that he was. It was worse because Edward was a different rabbit now. He remembered again Pellegrina's story about the princess who loved nobody. The witch turned her into a warthog because she loved nobody. He understood that now. He heard Pellegrina say, "You disappoint me." "Why?" he asked her. "Why do I disappoint you?" But he knew the answer to that too. It was because he had not loved Abilene enough. And now she was gone from him, and he would never be able to make it right. And Nellie and Lawrence were gone too. He missed them terribly. He wanted to be with them. The rabbit wondered if that was love. Day after day passed, and Edward was aware of the time passing only because every morning he could hear Ernest performing his dawn ritual, cackling and crowing about being king of the world. On his 180th day at the dump, salvation arrived for Edward in a most unusual form. The garbage round him shifted, and the rabbit heard sniffing and panting of a dog. Then came the frenzied sound of digging. The garbage shifted again, and suddenly, miraculously, the beautiful buttery light of late afternoon shone on Edward's face. So here's a picture from chapter 12. Oh! Whoa. I wonder if this dog is like Rosie. Do you remember what happened with Rosie? Putting it in her mouth, and actually his mouth, and going until Abilene's mother told him to drop it. We'll find out tomorrow. Bye till then.